Hi everyone, this is ARRR from the YouTube channel Starpath Academy, and I'm gonna make a comfy stream tonight for you guys. We're gonna talk about a couple of issues here, fun stuff only. The first, of course, silver, and with silver, somebody posted. Now this is, an observation. I don't know if it's true or not, but looks like silver got a haircut around 82.50. At the price range of 82.50, it got a little jarhead haircut. Some big bank or someone was, selling at that point, and that was a wall basically that it could. Let's just say nobody wanted from the big guys to go higher than that. Does that count? In the end, I don't think it counts that much, but I did observe it here as well. So if we zoom in, you can see it right here. It's quite interesting. These things don't usually happen unless you have someone very, very, very big who's selling, or at least doesn't want the price to go higher than that. Now, you got to watch out with these levels because we're forming either a double top, which is going to be priced down from here. That's what the banks are expecting for next week. Or somebody just said, well, this could be a big old cup and handle, which in case I think that would be crazy to expect a sudden rise from here, but like another maybe $20, $25, but it's definitely in the decks, right? So watch out how you're trading silver, because it's an immovable object and an unstoppable force colliding, and something's gonna break. There's two more things I want to talk about regarding precious metals. One is gold, and then, well, yes, let's just talk about gold. So not necessarily the gold price, but gold price in perspective of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, because I always say measure something against something else. So let's just I'm gonna follow my own advice here. So let's take a quick peek at the Dow Jones Industrial Average divided by the price of gold. This is a very important chart for me for a long time now. So this sharp decline in this means that gold has been rising, and it takes less and less gold to buy the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is currently at 48.90. Oh wow, okay, it's almost like $49,000. I thought it was like still at 48 something, but it has moved. Yeah. Oh wow, pretty good January. All right. So what this means, basically, that it used to take somewhere around 2018. It used to take 22 ounces of gold to purchase the Dow. Now it only takes 11 ounces of gold, right? So that's because of a tremendous rise in gold price. But here's another thing though. I do believe in cycles, and this thing repeats. Usually it's a kind of in a channel somewhere between 18 and then 3 ounces. If you go back all the way to 1920s, right? Gold used to be a big part of the economy back then. Eventually gold lost more and more of its importance to the banking system, and it went all the way down. That way it used to take 28 ounces of gold to buy the Dow. Then the crashes and the inflation even in the 70s happened, and then it went down all the way to roughly 1 ounce of gold was the Dow Jones, right? And what happened then after that, it would shot up, meaning it took 43 ounces of gold. And that is kind of the era that you guys probably lived through. I lived through that. And then it started falling. And we probably remember, the 2010, 2009-ish era, where it took only 7 ounces of gold. Then the boom, and back to 22, and now we are at 11. So what does that mean? Well, if we would go back to this level where it would take roughly 5 ounces of gold to buy the Dow Jones Industrial Average. That means 49 divided by 5, it would be roughly $9,800 or so. $9,800 or so for price of gold. But let's be a little bit conservative here, and let's just say gold doesn't go to $9,000 in this shorter cycle. Where does it go, right? So I drew a trend line here from these previous lows of the Dow divided by gold, and if you take a look at it, it's gonna roughly hit this level, which is gonna be 8. So divided by 8 instead of 8 ounces of gold purchasing the Dow instead of 5. So even if we just go down to 8, that means 49 divided by 8 is around $6,000, right? So from here, gold, in a conservative estimate, if the cycles are correct, not investment advice, this is just speculation and me theorizing for the sake of fun, then gold would probably go to $6,000. However, what we forget here, it could be two different things. Even if this is true, if the cycles are true, where will the Dow be? Because if the Dow goes from 49,000 to, let's just say, $40,000, then gold only goes up to $5,000. If the Dow falls to $35,000, then gold stays where it is, and this chart will still dip all the way down to touch this blue line, right? But if the Dow goes to, let's just say, I don't know, like $58,000, then gold will have to go about $7,000, $8,000. So it's not necessarily, this doesn't give you a price of gold. This just gives you the ratio between gold and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now, is this a good strategy for you? Probably not. We're not talking about strategy, but I like to look at these numbers because this gives me a better perspective on where we are in the cycle. Okay, technically, where I came from in Romania, an ounce of gold would have bought you, 5 acres of land and a house on it with other buildings for animals. So that would be a Romanian house per ounce of gold reaching 1-to-1, I guess, like an average farm home, I guess 1-to-1. So it really depends where you are, what you live through, and what you're looking for. But for me, even if gold goes up to like $6,000, it would not be a sign for me to sell, because the reasons I'm holding is for the next monetary system. And that's why for me, it doesn't make any sense to, trade gold. I just vault it in Switzerland, and that's where it stays. Okay, now another question. First, let's talk about the sponsor of the video, which is you guys. So I want to thank you guys for commenting. I want to thank you guys for buying me coffees. Actually, Jesse bought me some coffees, and I went out and actually bought some of this, my favorite stuff, Lavazza Lungo, and I put this in my Nespresso machine. So thank you, Jesse, for buying me a few coffees, and of course I'm gonna buy some meat patties. So all the money you give to this channel goes either into coffee or meat patties, so you can get your protein, right? Okay, let's go and read some comments from you guys. Here we go. YouTube is weird a little bit of comments. Not everything shows up, and sometimes the order is bad, but I try to get rid of some filters and find the most recent comments. Okay, so Brandon says he's new here. He's been watching for a bit now. How much gold and silver do you think is an important amount to reach? It could technically be endless, but how many ounces would you hope to have in the event of a reset currency collapse? Now, this is more of a spiritual reason, but it is my personal belief that everyone needs to have 7 ounces of gold. So don't ask me why. I'm not going to tell you why, but it is more of a belief, not coming out of any mathematical calculations. If you would want mathematical calculations, the reason, what I usually say is take a look at your other assets, how much is your net worth, how much you're making, and how much you want to protect. And depending on how much you want to protect, cover those assets of 10% of them with gold. So if you have $100,000 worth of, like, say, house or whatever asset you have, and you want to cover $10,000 worth of it with gold. So have $10,000 worth of gold for it. If you have a paid off house that's worth maybe, $350,000, then have gold for $35,000. I know it seems a lot. Like I'm not saying I wish I would have that, but that's like you asked me how much would be ideal at least. So that's what I'm telling you. And then stocks, bonds, whatever you hold, just divide it by 10, and ideally that is where you want to get to, because even if we don't experience a full-on currency collapse, just a big old crash and a reset, like a monetary reset of it, just not a full-on blowout of the economy, just everything collapsing in real terms, not nominally. Gold is used to tenfold, so gold is probably going to be tenfolding in a collapse like that, and will cover all your assets. Even if you lose them completely, it will just make up for it. So gold and silver will kind of tenfold in those kind of situations, and it will cover everything that you lose, even if you have to leave the country, as long as you have your gold somewhere else in a different country stored, and eventually you can get to it during or sometimes after the crisis, you should be covered. That's back in the day, I have heard, I'm not a financial advisor, they used to say 5% or 10%, and I just go with a higher number. If you have that, that's probably good enough. Of course, if gold's gonna tenfold by your standard, just have more, right? The thing is that I don't believe that we are meant on this world to just hoard on to gold. We're here to produce. We're here to be entrepreneurs, help our neighbors, help our friends, and grow. And I think more of the assets should go towards growing and producing and making life better in general, instead of just holding on to gold. But it's really up to you. Now for silver, instead of calculating based on assets, think about it, how much silver you would want to be able to barter with. Of course, I've told you about this before. Generally, you don't barter directly with silver, but you can sell the silver for barterable items, and you can barter. So silver is probably going to be based on your salary, or how much emergency fund you need to, let's say, get through 6 months or something like that. So these are the two measures that I have in my head. Right. A couple of other comments here. Yeah. Dragon Horde says that his dad was watching AI slop about silver. AI slop about silver. Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's the worst, because it imagines a lot of stuff, and then you don't know what is true or what is not. The thing is, nobody really knows, and sometimes the news get pulled back, but at least usually with people, you can't just spin up a new channel. Like, if I'm wrong about something and I find out I'm wrong, then I can correct myself and hopefully learn in the process. I would doubt that the AI videos do that. They probably just if the credibility of that channel goes down, they spin up a new one and push with the new character the same crap, because they're making money. They have even that Asian guy character has about at least 45 channels, and it will spin out new ones on the minute. So it doesn't matter. So confirmed 40 billion a month in treasury bills from the Federal Reserve is being pumped out. So we are officially back in QE, guys, which just means that the economy is not doing good, right? Here's a quick question from Zipper Fixer, and she's been on the channel commenting and watching for a long time. I really like her comments. She's asking, what is the outcome of migrants leaving and oil going down? So basically, how much, I'm guessing she's asking how much deflation can we expect? The thing is, even if we experience some deflation, which I'm looking forward to, hopefully some of the gold price and silver price would also hopefully would go down so we can buy at a more affordable rate. I don't think it's gonna be happening. Deflation is not gonna be happening on such a large scale that it would be affecting us too much. The only thing I'm really hoping for is the food prices to go down, because if the oil price go down, then the food prices will surely to follow a little bit. But it's not like the food producers are going to be like, oh wow, yeah, oil is down, let me take less profit now, so I'm going to drop the food price by 30%, which is usually, it should happen over time if the deflationary period would last. So if we have a deflation, then it will be a lagging effect for price drops in food, and even by the time that we have that, the deflation might be over, so it might be just an eased out deflation, not a sharp drop. Unless, of course, the federal government comes out with subsidies or some other tricks up their sleeves, which usually they come out during these times, or taxes go away or something like that. That would be the biggest hit on inflation, a tax moratorium or getting rid of tax. The thing is, I would not bet on deflation on the long run, but I'm saying it because it could have an effect, and if it does, it will be just good, but I don't expect it on a very large scale, especially we're still doing QE, and it's more the deflation. If it is there, it will be somewhat invisible, so they can get away with the inflation that they are doing on purpose. Yeah. So how do you see the potential deflation affecting precious metal pricing? I think if we have a big deflation, which I don't think we're going to have right now, but it's in the deck, in card decks, it will probably drive the price of precious metals down, but I don't expect a bigger drop than 20% or 10%. I really just don't at this point. Okay, let's take a look at a few more other things. One is price of copper. So the price of copper is at all-time highs. And what's the scary part of this is that if the price of copper is at an all-time high and gold is at an all-time high, that means people don't buy copper why they used to in the past, because the economy is good, so the copper is being used up by the economy and the price is driven up, and they're not buying gold because it's a hedge against inflation. They're actually buying anything and everything that's metal because it's a real thing. So that means to me that the investors don't just expect high inflation, they don't expect the economy is not doing good. So they usually should be somewhat, like if one is going up, that means the economy is good, so gold should be falling. Or people are buying gold because the economy is bad and copper should be falling. Now there's a time delay between them. Over time, they both go up just because general inflation, but the time delay plus the kind of not necessarily full-on inverse relationship, but generally speaking, like the delay in when things go up is no longer there. That means that the big guys are just betting on, in my mind, I'm thinking that means that they're just betting on a all across collapse. Like they don't care. As long as it's real, they can hold it, it's physical, they're buying. Same thing with aluminum. Actually, again, not financial advice, but if you look at aluminum, at least aluminum is not at its all-time high. So currently it's just at sitting right here at 3,000. Of course, it went a lot. It went up a lot, but if you measure it from this local low, it only went up 30%. right? 30%-ish, 34%. Whereas if you take a look at silver from a local low, now of course we know silver's a different animal and so on and so forth, but that went up 64%, right? So not investment advice here, guys, but I'm saying that all of the metals and everything is going up because it's just going up. It's interesting how aluminum used to be stuck in this channel and it broke out and nobody knows where it's going to go. And a little quick story here. Aluminum used to be my silver when I was young and collecting metals to, have some pocket money, because we weren't exactly doing great under at least the first part of the hyperinflation in Romania. So I was collecting metals, and copper was really hard to come by because it was expensive, and the competition to get copper, let's just say, was very, very high. But usually I just collected steel from these like old abandoned mills and the old abandoned everything after the communism fell. Like even army bases that were just kind of left there. If you ever saw the movie with Nicolas Cage, what's the name of the movie? Lord of War. You can probably understand now. Of course, we didn't go into military bases they were still storing equipment, but yeah, it was fun times, especially around the old railroads that were failing after communism, and there was just so much metal there and nobody cared. Interesting. Yeah, but what I was gonna say is that aluminum was my silver, so I suddenly realized, sure, I wanted money. So I was turning all the steel and iron and general stuff, even lead, that I was getting, and I was getting paid for that. But aluminum, the price of aluminum was going up so high during hyperinflation at such a rate that it didn't make sense for me to turn it in, because if I would, next week it would be just more. Next week it would be just more. So instead of that, I stored my aluminum stash in a metal box, and underground. We were living in these communist blocks, and the communist blocks had underneath them, they had bunkers. It was just like a whole system of bunkers. The buildings underneath were connected, and eventually all of that became storage for the people who lived in these high-rise buildings. So we had one as well. They just sectioned it off. Depending on how much space you owned or apartments you had in that block, depending on that, you would get X amount of square feet underground, and then you would section that off with walls and everything else, like brick and doors and locks and metal doors and bomb shelter doors, and then you could use that cold storage space to store food and whatever. And my father had 2 of those storage spaces underground, and one of them where I stored my extra metal over the years. And one day my dad came home with this little metal box, and he already put some aluminum in it for me, and we played that's silver, right? And maybe it wasn't bigger than like an ammo box, or it's actually, I still have it in Romania, still there in the in the old bomb shelter under the building, still locked, and I still have it there. I have to go back home and show it to you guys. But it was maybe as big as 2 ammo boxes, like 2 larger ammo boxes to put together, and that was my chest. And in that chest I had some aluminum nuggets from a foundry that failed, and we went there and we got some aluminum. I think we bought some aluminum because they were just throwing it away. For some reason, even during hyperinflation, they did not think that it's just going to continue. So I thought, yeah, it's going to continue. So I kept the aluminum for myself. And lucky for me, because it just continued going up for years and years and years. And I still have it. So it was kind of my silver stash. Like I always played in my head that that's actually silver, right? That's actually silver that I'm storing there. And, hopefully I will have the time where I can... my dad's gone now, but for his memory, hopefully I can get some silver and go home in Romania and swap it out. Wouldn't that be a day? And then just leave the whole thing to my sons with the story. All right, that's aluminum for you. So I will always have a special place in my heart for aluminum. I'm not investing, of course, especially not in paper aluminum, but it's there. It's there. Yeah, watch out for this silver. This silver is gonna kick. This silver chart right here, this could be a double top. It could be a head and shoulder forming. It could be a reverse head and shoulder forming going up from here. The thing is that I don't necessarily care, because the physical price of silver, if this goes down to $60 or something, I don't think the physical price will go up. As one of the other commenters said, I haven't checked it because I'm not in the loop, in the daily loop, but he was saying the problem with places like AppMex and so on, like online shops for silver, is the spread on silver eagles can be like $15. And they could easily build up inventory by raising sell to us prices. Yeah. Here's another comment. Exporting our inflation will be short-term helpful to the banksters. Of course, this is coming from Mikhail Kalashnikov, longtime commenter and follower of the show. Thank you. So exporting our inflation will be short-term helpful to the banksters, of course, but I see the de-dollarization process accelerating after this, especially this year could be potential disaster with the historical amount of bonds coming due in the rollover. I agree. I was actually talking about the bond rollover not so long ago in one of my videos, and the de-dollarization is happening. And in my video about like Venezuela, what's actually happening in Venezuela, I was telling you that the bonds, the US Treasury bonds, are having less and less international buyers, and the Chinese bonds have too many buyers. So the thing is that the treasuries are the plumbing system of the current whole financial system of the world. It's built upon the US Treasury because it used to be good as gold, even better than gold. But that's 100-year-old, well, not 100, but like a 50-year-old way of thinking, and that's no longer there. And countries are realizing that that comes with collateral, that comes with promises, and if the US doesn't like you, they can just pull the rug on you. So the banks, international banks, have been buying more gold than ever these last few, like 4 years. The thing is that the crash is happening, but it's happening in slow motion. So one more thing, of course, I wanted to talk about, which is quite interesting. That, well, first of all, I want to thank the people who have been supporting me through cryptocurrencies, especially the Bitcoin Cash people. I just realized that you've been buying coffees for me as well, and I'm really thankful for that. Every donation, either YouTube premium subscription or buy me a coffee or Bitcoin Cash, sending me Bitcoin Cash, keeps me going and keeps the channel alive. This channel has been running on and off for quite some time now, but I've never thought about like completely abandoning it. But when I just see like people, you guys commenting or appreciating the content that I put out, the stories I tell, asking me questions, buying me coffees, it keeps me going, man. I really appreciate that, truly. So I don't want to push too much on the cryptos, but this is more just like a news item. Stablecoin Titan, Tether. So Tether is kind of like a shady, not so shady, crypto, whatever. I never use them, but it's basically, they're just replacing the dollar 1-to-1. So it's just always, the price of it is always $1, but they want to have this vehicle to be able to move in and out of other cryptocurrencies without converting them into fiat actual dollars. They just convert it into this, and they convert it back into whatever crypto they want. So that's Tether. And I mean, there's a loop there where Tether, they were constantly using Tether to like push the price of Bitcoin up. We can talk about that in another video. That's quite speculative. But anyway, the news item is here that they're actually coming out with Scudo. I don't know what that means, but Scudo is basically tracking the price of gold. So they have regular Tether that is tracking the price of the US dollar. It's always just $1. And Scudo is going to be always 1/1000th of an ounce of gold. So that means that they're thinking that they want to have, and apparently Tether is backed by actual cash, and now this Scudo whatever is going to be backed by gold. I think it's already out. I have no idea. I'm not telling you to buy any of this, right? I always tell you that in my mind, if it's gold, it's physical, and you know it where it is. But it's interesting that more and more people from complete other end of the spectrum they're coming up with some way somehow to get exposure to gold and the precious metal movement. That tells me that this baby still has a long way to go, because if got cut off there for a second, but this baby has a long way to go, because some people are just waking up now that they want exposure to gold any means necessary, whether that's Tether or Schmeder, it doesn't really matter, I guess. People are just waking up. Very few people actually own precious metals when it comes to general public, so they're gonna come up with whatever instead of actually just getting the physical, as they should, some would say. That is all for now. Remember to eat your meat. Good news, another really good news, that we are turning the scam food pyramid upside down. So making America healthy again is scoring us another win. Make sure to eat your meat, get your protein, and live healthy. All right, talk to you next time.